link, people can actually. We have shared on our Facebook the link, so they can follow eventually, and they cannot properly interact with the roundtable, but they could make comments on the web. So and then we can implement them in the conversation.
So we are online. So Silvia, you can start.
Okay.
Brief introduction.
We are.
Yeah.
We are online.
Yeah, we are online.
Okay, super. So hello, hi to everybody, and thank you very much for very kindly accepting our invitation and dedicating the time for this roundtable. So I'd like to briefly introduce the people that are joining this roundtable. So I am Silvia Franceschini, and I was part of the curatorial team of the Kiev Biennial, the School of Kiev, a biennial made in the format of a school, and I am a curator and researcher. And here is Salvatore, from co-founder of the Free Home University and member of the research collective IRAC from Milan. We are calling from Milan, actually. And so I'm glad to have here Jason Adams from the New Center for Research and Practice. And Tony is with us, Tony Yannick, perfect, from the New Center for Research and Practice. Then we have Laura Madel and Dirk van Velden from the Het Institute School in Rotterdam. We have Merv Bedir, director and founder of Aformal Academy. And we have Christina Varvia from Forensic Architecture from London. Okay, so thanks again. So we can start with our discussion. So Salvatore would like to briefly introduce the topics and the main issues we are going to discuss.
Yeah, thank you, Silvia, and thank you to our guests for being here, for your availability. And I will just introduce what the digital dialogues are. So the Aformal Academy digital dialogues are just a little part of the whole program that has been directed by Merve and Jason Ingleford in Shenzhen during the UABB Shenzhen and Hong Kong Biennale. And these dialogues are a series of conversation with an archipelago of experiences related to pedagogy. We are trying to connect and making visible and dialogue with these experiences, and but until now we focused on radical pedagogies and counter-school and alternative forms of pedagogy. But today we will try to talk with institutional realities, let's say, and try to get institutionalized. So we consider the institutionalization like a tool for everyone willing learn and teach, and we consider art and research institutions like real places for democracy and for a socially engaged debate. And I want to read a quote from Chantal Mouffe that says that institutions should not be discarded, but on the contrary, be used as sites for agonistic politics in which social conflicts are made productive. We should become engaged with the art institution to undermine the imaginary environment of the consumer society. So this is briefly what we are doing with these digital dialogues, and maybe you should present yourselves, maybe starting with Merve, that can talk about the whole Aformal Academy program.
Thank you, Silvia, Salvatore. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and I'm super happy to be part of this discussion. Right now, right here, I see myself more as maybe the least experienced among all, because Aformal Academy is really for us the first time that we have been trying such an experiment or such a practice, and in Shenzhen, China, a completely different context for us. Aformal Academy basically has been the part of the educational program of UABB, Urbanism Architecture Biennial of Shenzhen and Hong Kong. Me and my partner, Jason Hilgefort, we have been facilitating, let's say, officially we are called the directors, but we are more the facilitators of the program, which is initially for, let's say, architects and designers, but then for everyone who have been following the biennial. And Aformal Academy initially presented itself as let's say, horizontal learning environment, mostly practicing based on experimenting and learning by doing, very simply to very simply put it. In the beginning, sorry, I'll have to adjust the sound. I think I'm echoing myself. I'm hearing myself. So in the beginning, we were kind of trying to develop critical observations together with the participants.
Laura, can you kindly turn off the microphone?
This is probably because not everybody has their mics muted. So if everybody else mutes their mics except for her, it probably will stop, most likely.
Yes.
Shall I continue? Cool.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. So basically, we have started with a section on critical observation. As we called it, we have tried through several methods. Together with the participants of the workshops, we have tried to develop, let's say, critical observations on the city of Shenzhen, particularly trying to, let's say, undo some of the assumptions that are based on Shenzhen that we have been reading all along or hearing all along. And then based on those observations, or also based on suggestions from outsiders who do want to be part of the academy program, we kind of developed the topics of the workshops, and we have expanded on them during 3 months. This started in December last year and basically has ended physically in terms of a space, physical space in Shenzhen. It has ended at the end of February, but the idea is that it will continue in a different platform. The Shenzhen Center for Design, which is an institution and which I would like to bring to the table actually during this conversation, has asked us to continue with the Aformal Academy program, but under a different title now. And this is a kind of a threshold for us and a moment for us to transform into a different practice, let's say, or continue with the program, but let's say bringing an agenda of an institution now from Shenzhen, which is an established agenda and established institution which has been practicing in Shenzhen for a while, etc. So for us now the question is, how do we keep the dynamism of Aformal Academy being a temporary school which has managed to be horizontal somewhat and has managed to preserve, let's say, an equal environment for everyone, to kind of transform into an institution while not losing those characteristics that have been established in the first place. If you have any questions about Aformal Academy, I can respond to them further, but for now, I'll stop it here.
Murph, that was a good introduction. Jason, would you like, or Tony, would you like to go ahead with the news center?
Sure. Maybe we can both say a little bit about it. I'll just say, I mean, we started back in what was it, Tony? And it was in 2014, right?
Yes.
We've already been going for like 2 years. And basically, what our idea was, we were previously involved in another effort, and that one, there were some kind of competing ideas about what we should do, you know, kind of what our form should be. And they were really trying to set themselves up as, or I should say, we were trying to set ourselves up, but there was a disagreement about it, as an actual alternative to the university, and an alternative to kind of neoliberal corporatization of the university and that kind of thing. And a disagreement arose within the previous institution about whether that approach was perhaps not itself a little bit too complicit with neoliberalism in various ways, because you know, we have this massive defunding of public universities, public institutions, and that kind of stuff. So what we tried to do with the New Center was a pretty different approach, where we're really not about opposing the university or the college system per se, but we're really about kind of operating in the interstices between the university, between you know, art institutions, think tanks, other types of practices like that, para-academic types of research environments and that kind of thing. And so what we really do is we use Google Hangouts, we use kind of online platforms and technologies to connect disparate people in different disciplines who have a common interest in usually in some range of critical theory and that kind of stuff, but also very much practice focused. So that's why we're called New Center for Research and Practice. And I guess another difference from the previous one was that the previous one was very focused on being kind of global in a way, and whereas kind of our watchword is the new. So so as the New Center for Research and Practice, I think that we're very focused on kind of emerging ideas that are not yet completely solidified, and giving voice to these emerging concepts, emerging kind of research threads and intellectual groupings that that maybe are not the established ones as of yet. I could say a lot more about it, but basically, I guess we have several different divisions. You know, we have a focus in art and curatorial practice. We have a focus in social and political thought, which is what I run. Tony runs transdisciplinary research and practice. We have critical philosophy. But basically, if you were to sum it up very simply, you would just say art, media, politics, and theory, pretty much, is kind of the general area that we work in. And we do everything from actual formal classes, or seminars, as we call them, to reading groups. And we have a membership-based structure. Our members propose reading groups and propose weekend roundtables and discussions regularly, and then we basically help to formalize that. We find kind of leading figures in the field and bring them to the roundtable, and we do this pretty much every weekend. So that's about what I would say that we do. But there's much more that could be said. Do you want to say anything, Tony?
I guess I'll just introduce myself. I'm Tony Yannick, also an organizer of the New Center for Research and Practice. also one of our other organizers who's an equal is Mohammed Salami, who can't be here today. But I apologize, I'm in France and I might have bad Wi-Fi, so if you cannot hear me, let me know. I just wanted to, I guess, add to what Jason was saying, because he was talking a lot about what we do. I think in expounding on the new, one thing that we like to do is that we like to bring in people that are on the cusp of their research projects, or maybe starting a writing project, in which they can host a seminar or a workshop to work out these problems. So they're always, all of our seminars and events are always fluid and open to whoever might be leading the seminar. So we're always kind of changing and open to that process. So that's sort of like it's sort of like our experimental way of trying to figure out sharing knowledge. And the only other thing I think that we should mention is that to engage sort of like the public audience, we've started also a publishing platform on the side called #, which we're publishing from our memberships and from our coursework and people around us. So we run a blog, and we're currently working on getting books and stuff open and doing translations and things like that. So that would be, I think, just like a general, that's the only additions I have. So thank you. Thank you for organizing this.
Okay, thank you very much, Tony and Jason. Yeah, I think that was a good introduction. Then already some questions, but maybe let's present everybody and then engage in the conversation. So Laura and Dirk, would you like to go ahead?
Well, we are. Can you hear us? Okay. We are not from Rotterdam. We are from Amsterdam. Okay. The thing is, Het Instituut is not an intellectual organization or close to academia. It basically was started to connect artists, designers, and architects to places in society where they could join projects to change things. For instance, redeveloping parts of the city, or finding a new purpose for an old military airfield as a cultural park. To do the investigations, to do the research, to develop the plan for this new use of the airfield, we did an investigation that involved artists, architects, landscape architects, philosophers, writers, even a classical, somebody who is schooled in Greek and Latin, to give us advice. We developed a plan towards the politicians. We invited even developers, and we connected them to politicians of the neighboring councils, so it would really happen, so our plan would be realized. So it's Laura and Johan and I are starting up this school, but it's basically a way to find a platform for artists to learn from each other, to do these kind of things that we are organizing. So it's more like a backup system.
Yeah, it's actually because it came from the idea that in normal art academies, the classical like studio model is still really present, and we have a really different way of working. So the artists have a really different role, but they use the same skills what they learn in the art academy, but then in a different way. So that's actually Het Instituut, the school is aimed to educate them further in that. So to really connect your practice as an artist or as a designer to these social or spatial questions, and to learn how to collaborate with commissioners, with policymakers, and so on.
Yeah. Maybe that's, for the time being, all right, as an introduction.
Yeah. And Christina, is your turn.
Yes. Okay. So I am the project coordinator for forensic architecture, which is in itself a research agency within Goldsmiths University, within the Center for Research Architecture in Goldsmiths University. But I think I'm invited here to talk not about the work itself, which you may or may not know, but more about the educational programs that we are thinking or we're about to launch and thinking of launching. But just to kind of give you a very general kind of a framework of this, forensic architecture is in itself an interdisciplinary project. It is a research agency and office in a way, but it is comprised by architects, scholars, filmmakers, designers, lawyers, scientists, who are all together undertaking architectural, spatial, media analysis and presenting this as evidence in legal and political forums. So we have presented in the UN, we have presented in the ICC. We are taking different platforms in order to dissipate this as kind of a knowledge production, but also within the forum, so it has some sort of output, hopefully. So the two projects that we are, the two different programs that we are about to launch, one is the Masters within the Center of Research Architecture. It already exists a Masters within the Center of Research Architecture, but we are, from next year, there's going to be a Masters that has more of a pathway towards forensic architecture. And the second is a forensic academy, which is still an idea. And it is a bit different because it is not within an institution, but it is trying to engage with different communities. So the first one is kind of an attempt to offer to existing educational models to institutions, current or future postgraduate students, to kind of get them into the study of forensics, so to allow them to critically examine media as evidence and to question the materiality of the sources, to have spatial practices enter within the realm of politics, philosophy, theory, etc. And it is also a way of thinking and practicing that does not come directly from what you would like to prove, but what the material kind of speaks about. So it's a way of practicing that is about reappropriating existing skills to develop this kind of work towards those kind of human rights work, basically. And then Forensic Academy is a similar idea, but instead of taking that into institutions or educations, what we are trying to do is develop it as a satellite kind of program that would travel in areas, visit communities that are within a particular political context, conflict areas, and train them to use different skills and techniques in order to empower them to first monitor the violence that they are experiencing, or the state that has been imposing certain sanctions on them, and then monitor, report, act upon those. So within forensic architecture, as a research agency, we are developing different sets of tools and techniques. We are finding new ways of practicing within those fields and within human rights. But we do not want to hold on to this expertise, but on the contrary, we want to, in every piece of work we do, it's half the presentation of the work and half a tutorial of how you would do it yourself. One is so that if you think we are wrong, if if you want to judge us for our reports, here's the tools to do it. Tell us exactly where we were wrong. And the second reason is because we want people to start practicing like that as well, and we want to give them the tools to do so. So this is kind of the basic framework of how it's going to go. The Forensic Academy is not something that has started yet. It's still in plans with both the Center for Investigative Journalism here in Goldsmiths as well, and Amnesty International, who's also interested in developing those practices. And this is still an idea of how we can make this happen. But yeah, I would leave it at that for now and get back to it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Christina.
Super. Thank you very much. I have to say that all the already you put on the table a lot of very interesting. I mean, already how all the 4 institution functions. They are all extremely interesting. Maybe to start with just a very first question, since we're speaking about educational programs. I was curious to ask you concerning the issue of community and of who are the people that actually can take place both. So who are the people who participate to such educational programs that you have created, that you have enacted, and a second question could be how this community of people kind of remain linked to the initiative, also not only during the program but also after. So which kind of group of researchers, how do they work together during the time of the program and after? And I think this is very could be very different for every program, because like we were curious to ask concerning to the center, the new Center for Research and Practice, how does this work also through the fact that it is an online community, or the same for the differently from for the institute. How does the institution remain a sort of epicenter for these learning processes, and as well, of course, the community as also not only the community of high-level researcher that engage in this program, but we were interested also eventually which kind of community in the sense of civil society, if these programs are more or less open to this. So it would be nice to hear your voice on that. Who wants to start? Maybe Jason, who wants to start, or Tony?
Sure. I mean, I would say, I mean, my first thought was just kind of where are our instructors coming from, where are our speakers coming from, and where are the general participants in the dialogue or in the seminars coming from. And a lot of our instructors are people who pursued a PhD and who are doing kind of very cutting edge knowledge, but and research, but are people who graduated very shortly after the economic crisis. And as a result of that, there's not a lot of tenured positions per se. So a lot of them end up in various types of precarious academic labor. And this sort of thing provides an outlet for these ideas, which even when they are, catching on quite a bit, some of these people who we have, teaching for us, with people like Reza Negarestani, the Xenofeminist Collective, Peter Wolfendale, other people like that, or Nick Land, that these people are, many of them are somewhat outside of the traditional academy, even though people within the academy are citing them and using their work quite a bit. So it's the strange irony where some of the most sort of influential and cited people are actually themselves not fully securely employed within the actual academic system per se. And similarly, the people who we have coming in as dialogue participants or students are very often people who, say, just finished their master's degree and now they're getting ready for their PhD, but maybe they took a year or two off. And in many cases, what will happen is that they'll want something to show that they stayed intellectually active during this break between the MA and the PhD, or between the BA and the MA. And so this kind of helps provide that. But there's also other people who just don't fit into the academic structure. They don't really want to be part of it. There has of course been a loss of faith in the value of a graduate degree per se, even though there has not been a loss of interest in, say, critical theory and critical research and practice. So there's a lot of people who want to continue doing that kind of work that they may have started while in college or university, but are not totally sure that they want to continue in grad school per se. So there's those kind of people. Then there's the people who are between degrees, and then we also have people who are fully enrolled in other degrees. And what they're looking for from us is that they want access to this kind of these emerging fields of thought. Even if you're, I remember when I was looking for PhD programs, I looked at, of course, I looked at the Ivy League places and stuff like that. But most of them that I looked at, like Brown University, for example, had James Derderian at the time, who's kind of a Virilio scholar, and he also does international relations. But in that department at that time, there was literally nobody else other than James Derderian that I was excited about. So I didn't end up applying there because I would rather go to another place that has a wide array of interesting people. And I think that's kind of a draw as well, is that very often people get stuck in an institution in which there's maybe one person that they're very excited about studying with, but then there's not that many other people that they're really that excited about studying with. And so this allows them a chance to both do whatever they chose to do, and to also have other figures to draw upon and interact with and dialogue with. And then the final group, I would say, is people who, for example, we have a lot of information tech, like kind of infotech people who ended up pursuing that as a career choice because they make very good money. But when they were in grad school or in their BA, they were that's when they were studying philosophy. That's when they were studying critical theory. Because of the infotech kind of emphasis, in many cases, they also got into sort of media theory and technological theory, and we specialize in that. So we have a lot of people who are just kind of out working in their field and basically are done with college or university, but they'd like to continue being part of an emerging critical dialogue. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And do these people remain engaged after the end of this of the program? Is there a way that you continue?
Yeah, because we have a membership structure. So we have a membership-based structure. So so if you're a member, you can propose Saturday research group activities, and so we have people who continue. We also have people who never start, because we have who never start and who are just simply members. So the members basically get access to our entire video archive, and then, like I said, they participate in the research groups. We have 12 different research groups, which is kind of like our think tank capacity, you could say. And so they can participate in that kind of indefinitely, and they don't have to ever become students. We do have certificates in the fields I was mentioning before, like art and curatorial practice. But that is more structured like something that you would get. So the certificate is appended onto your MA degree or your PhD degree or whatever, and you can list it on your resume. But not everybody really wants that. Other people really just want to be engaged, and so even when you are finished with your certificate, you can still you could still just be a member and be part of these research groups and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura? Dirk?
Yeah. Where do our students come from?
Yeah, so we send out an open call for research proposals, and they're and actually artists, designers, architects, but also scientists. So it actually doesn't really matter, but they are invited to apply. The only so your research have to have a connection with actually like it has to be practice based somehow. So it has to have a connection with a real tangible subject. So or it can be a spatial subject or a question or social, but that it has to bridge somehow this world of academia and practice.
So the idea is that when they are accepted, the research proposal is accepted, they become part of the group of students. Yeah. They will do their research here in Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. And it should connect to a spatial problem in the city or a social issue in the city. So the whole idea is that you do it by experiment. Your research is done not in a theoretical sense or in an academic sense, but in the sense of going out there and doing it, connecting with all the institutions, people, people from the city, a government, from groups of inhabitants, environmental groups. You should do it with those people. But the feedback they get from het institute is done in the form of an advisory circle. And those people are experts in their field, and they can be present, but they don't have to be present. But we also have connections with people far away that can advise the students on specific questions by Skype, for instance. But the whole idea is that they do their own, they ask their own questions. So there are tutors here, but sometimes we say, okay, this is something you should ask this guy or that woman over there, because she is or he is in our advisory circle and they have a lot of valuable information for you. They can solve this for you.
Yeah, so actually the research has a really local ground, but the help they get and the advice they get is really global, because this advisory circle is an international circle, and so it's via Skype and also here in the working space.
So it's we don't really have a building. There's a little office where people meet, yeah. But that's it.
Yeah, and that's also the community that is built is there for the moment. With those researchers, and in the advisory circle, it's a network of experts that can grow in the years that we will continue with this initiative.
And of course, we hope that the students, as they are working in the same city here, can learn from each other, especially because they are very often in completely different disciplines. The first pilot we did was with a
student of fine arts.
Fine art student, a designer, yeah. Mostly in media, social media. So the connection between digital media and social action, and somebody who graduated from the technical university as an engineer, yeah. Somebody who was really working with high-tech mathematical design. Mm-hmm. But they learned a lot from each other by being involved in the same square kilometer here in the city.
Yeah. So that's the basic setup.
Hi.
I think that your work is strictly related to the Aformal Academy program in Shenzhen. What do you think, Merve?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think Aformal Academy is, in a way, a kind of a combination in terms of the audience and the participants. It's a combination between the New Center and Het Institute. But I was just going to add to that, there's something magical called WeChat in China. Basically, every topic, every theme, every workshop proposal is made into a discussion group. We make it into a discussion group in WeChat. WeChat is like an app that's like a combination of WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter, which is mostly used in China. But people have an amazing interest and capacity to use it. It works very well. Every topic, every theme is we make it into a WeChat group, and then who is involved, the participants involved in the workshop from the first day are part of it, but then also other people can join in it as well, and then it somehow becomes a forum among everyone who wants to discuss or be involved in the conversation. So it could be a theoretical one, or it could be a very practical one, but it kind of keeps itself rolling with the interest of people, basically.
Christina, do you want to add something?
Yes, it seems that there's a lot of, I mean, especially for the Het Institute, it seems that it is a sort of format that is more like a residency, which is quite interesting, and maybe similar to a formal academy as well. Or it's an interesting kind of setup. For us, for the master's degree, it's quite straightforward. It would be students that are interested in doing a master's, but then they would be working directly with live investigations. So the kind of work we do anyway with forensic architecture would be about ongoing investigations about different conflicts. So it might be within a kind of academic field, but then they would be practicing and in real-time events. So maybe a strike that happened in Syria last week, this is a subject to analyze and kind of research on immediately. When it comes to the Forensic Academy, the who is a bit different. It is really the people who are kind of experiencing whatever event they would like to research on, they want to kind of analyze. And I mean, I can give you an example which might be helpful. It's so one of the tools we're developing now is kite mapping, which we're doing with Public Lab, which is a little bit like citizen journalism. It's we've done this in Brazil and now in Palestine. We're using photography from kites, from basically mounting a camera on a kite and flying a kite up above in order to map out the city below, or in the case of Palestine, we did this in the Negev, in the desert, in a village that has been destroyed by Israelis 92 times. So it is not mapped. It doesn't exist in Google Maps. It doesn't exist in any formal documents. And the whole argument by the Israeli military is that it's an illegal settlement. But at the same time, we have evidence of aerial photography, etc., that this village has existed and it has been destroyed 92 times. So therefore, the kite is a kind of a good way. It is not suspicious in any way. It is yet, because they still don't know this is a technique, and it is a way to get some image of to kind of take what the state sees through its own satellite or drone eyes, and to kind of have the same privileged view from the people on the ground who are actually suffering the consequences of those political decisions. So this is kind of one of the examples. So one is to kind of empower the communities themselves. Then it's also to crowdsource in a way, because during the kind of investigations we do with forensic architecture, very often what we are lacking is local knowledge, or what we are lacking is really the specificity of what it is to be there. And this is something that if we can train people to understand how we work and how they can work with us, then we can really advance our investigation. So it's about one, crowdsourcing, but it's empowering and crowdsourcing at the same time, because we have the same goals in the end of the day. So it's a bit different. It's always split in two, between the more kind of Western way of looking at it from London, and then looking at it on site.
Thank you, Christina. And actually, the difference and the relation between local and global, between digital and physical, and is a very interesting topic. I think that all the projects have a physical part, a super local part, and then an hybrid and a digital part.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask to Jason if, for example, they develop physical events, or if you ever try to find a physical place for your seminars, for your events.
Jason? I think maybe he disconnected for a moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Magari lo vuoi chiedere. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, when he will come, he will answer this question. Yeah. No. Anyway, in general, was very interesting balances indeed between a kind of a local mission, and I like very much this idea you mentioned, Christina, about the idea of the crowdsourcing and the idea of kind of the passage of the tools to the people, and this idea that together. Oh, Jason reappeared. So yeah, there is an interesting balance with an idea to deal with the local community, or bridging with kind of more tools that are shared with a sort of an international community of researchers and people. And so, Jason, you arrived. Did you hear the question of Salvatore?
Oh yeah, I'm very sorry.
No.
I received an
important
phone call because they turned off the water at my house, and I'm trying to get it turned back on.
We are real time.
Yeah. Sorry. So what was the question? I'm sorry about that.
No, the question was if you ever try to find a physical place for your seminars, because we were talking about the local and the global, the physical and the virtual. So every project has these aspects.
Yeah. Well, that's been a very interesting part of this, because really what we're trying to do is we're trying to think of how is this technology of say Hangouts and some of these video technologies, how are they not being used at present, and how could we kind of stretch their capacities to transform both the virtual world and the physical actual world. So one thing that we've done, for example, is we just did a thing at eFlux in New York City with Mackenzie Work and Anna Tixera Pinto and a number of other people. We brought them. So not everybody could come physically, but we did emphasize the physical for this event. But we also brought in a couple additional people who could not come by plane, either due to time issues or due to financial issues or whatever it was. And so we would bring them into this physical space at eFlux in New York City through Hangouts, and we would have them basically broadcast on a screen. They would be interacting with the entire crowd. They could see the crowd, the physical crowd assemble, and the physical crowd assembled could see them. And then we also had all the people who were physically there. So that's one way. Another way is sometimes we've had things like I gave a talk in Melbourne, for example, at the Alien Aesthetics Conference, which was kind of about sci-fi theory and art and that kind of stuff. And this was last summer, and that was a primarily physical event over there. And we partnered with them and made it a joint effort of Deakin University and the New Center for Research and Practice together. And part of the way that we did that was we were able to bring in myself, a couple other people. Deakin had much more financial resources than we had, of course. They were able to bring Bruce Sterling to Melbourne in person. And so it was very cool because you're talking about different groups with different types of capacities, different types of financial capacities, different technological capacities, and they're all kind of like complementing one another, both physically and virtually, in these types of situations. But other times it's easier to just be completely virtual. And so really the idea here is that I mean, when you're dealing with this type of a technology like Google Hangouts, you're face to face. I can see you, you can see me. I can hear you, you can hear me. And this whole thing is, oh, and also the limit of the number of people that can be in the Hangout is, if you're an educational institution, they will up it from 10 to 15. So if you think about 15 slots, that's very much like a small seminar table in a small college, in a small like liberal arts college, right? So, so to me, I mean, yes, it's online, but it's not the same thing as when people talk about MOOCs or when they talk about online education. Usually you're not talking about 15 people. Usually you're talking about 50,000 people. At least in the ones that are touted in like Wired magazine and that kind of stuff. They're trying to show that like, oh yes, now it can be education for all the masses of the world can just turn on their internet and learn from some Harvard professor or whatever. But I think that what this type of medium does is weirdly physical in a strange way, even though it is virtual. But then even aside from that, there's all these other ways that you can use the virtual to append the physical and vice versa.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Yeah, that's actually, it's interesting to see how even for you, I mean, how anyway there is this sort of kind of a bodily experience and a kind of a sense of you have a sense of engagement even if it is in a kind of online discussion. Yeah, and maybe this is true as we are having now in a way. Yeah.
Right.
Can I add something here?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
This was super interesting for us because in China basically neither Google nor YouTube nor Facebook works, and with VPN you have several levels of blockage and several levels of thresholds that you have to pass to be able to speak with people. This I think also tells us how much technology is allowing or not allowing. And we have to get much more creative in future. I mean, this is basically the first time that we are actually being part of a discussion because I'm not in Shenzhen at the moment. And this is very important, and I'm actually curious also how the Forensic Academy will deal with this in future. For instance, in Palestine, this might be an issue. This will probably be an issue. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
No, exactly, and especially in places like Gaza, in the investigation we were doing last year, there's not even internet might be there for a couple of hours during the day. So I mean, it is a different sort of siege, let's say, where information is hard to get in or out. So how we break this is it's an open question. It's how you can make this link. Sometimes being there is really, really valuable. It's not easy to understand remotely, but no question that those technologies have helped bring people together, and we just have to be creative in how we make that happen. All of our investigations at the moment are remote, so.
Thank you. Yeah. I have another curiosity, if I can ask a question to Laura and Dirk, and then of course if you have questions among yourself, that would be just pleasant to hear. I was curious to ask you about. I'm very interested into the method and this idea of really engaging into the researchers will engage into the city, and then will be in dialogue with worldwide international tutors. Actually, I have been a researcher in residence at the Strelka Institute in Moscow, and somehow we had a kind of a, we were also commissioned to do a lot of research on the field, always in dialogue with tutor. And one of the main issues that raised up at the end of the program was also dealt also with the implementation of the research that has been done during the year-long program. So I was curious to ask you if you have any idea of how this researches, this both fieldwork and theoretical researches, will be implemented in your case, both maybe in the institution itself, that maybe will kind of gather ideas and researches and create new programs based on that, new sort of kind of diffusion of the research through exhibitions, publications, or maybe on the field itself, maybe communicating with some partners outside, or which kind of following these programs are supposed to have?
Well, there was, of course, only a pilot of 3 students, and we're now, with this very successful open call, we are selecting 12 from 70 applicants. So we don't know exactly how all these researchers will go, but as you already suggested, I think the most successful cases will go the farthest, will be the most concrete, and will produce a book, an exhibition, but maybe even better, connect to something that's really happening here in the city, that's really so they cooperate. The whole idea is to link them to things that really happen already, to make them realize that their autonomous research or autonomous work as an artist does not have to be compromised in any way when they are collaborating with people in other disciplines. That is just the other way around. And this is what they have to learn how to do. That's why we have this school.
Yeah, and also during the process of the participants, we organize some public meetings, and for these public meetings we invite specific people. So every research we research which stakeholders can have a role in also implementing the research proposal, and we will invite those stakeholders in these public meetings. So we will structure the system so that these researchers can be implemented in the future somehow. So.
I would like just to add something, because what you want to do, we are doing with us at the Institute, is strictly related to what we did with the Free University in Milan. We were just a group of researchers, students of architecture, and we just immersed ourselves in the reality. The first years of research was called called the Learning from the Mass. We just passed one year with local communities and radical communities in Milan, and I think that's is very important. The local part of we did like other of this roundtable, virtual roundtable. So we had our virtual advisory circle made by people who we just contact. But the local part is fundamental, and when we talk about art and pedagogy, is fundamental to focus on the exchange, on the dialogue, and on the human relationship with local communities. So this is it.
Okay. You would like to make a final question?
No,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, no, enjoy. Yeah.
I have a question, if possible. I'm just wondering. Maybe it's more of a question, kind of towards Jason and Merve, just because I think Laura and I had it's a bit more straightforward. But I was just wondering what the difference in the outcome, what's the difference in the work itself when it is kind of created through this framework that is not institutional. I'm just asking because Jason mentioned kind of against the neoliberal kind of establishment of education. So in the end of the day, what comes out of it, the outcome, how would you say it's different? I can imagine it is more, it's easier to kind of explore subjects that would otherwise not be kind of taken as a research study. But what else? Maybe expand on how it becomes kind of impactful in the end, the outcome.
Well, I would say part of the practice part. The practice part is largely in. I mean, I guess this is one thing that I personally. I mean, we're a 3-person collective, so we have in terms of people who run it on a daily basis. So each of us has kind of different foci. Tony does a lot of the publishing. I do the research groups, and Mohammed does the seminars. So for me, the practice part of it and the kind of the outcome is specifically what I would like to do is for us to be kind of like a think tank. Like in Michigan, we have in Detroit, as you may have heard with the Flint. I don't know if you've heard of the water crisis that's happened in Flint, where the water was poisoned with lead and that kind of stuff. Well, that outcome came directly from a think tank in Michigan called the Mackinac Center for Public Policy, and they're drawing on very specific types of economic theory, kind of neoliberal economic theory, and they're literally writing laws like the emergency manager law, which allows for the elected city government to be overthrown, and for basically a municipal dictator to be installed, and to then make all decisions. And that's what happened in that case. So you have the think tank, and then you have the policy, and then you have the kind of enactment of that policy. What I would like to see is that what we develop out of the research groups have actual practical implications in a similar way. Obviously, we don't have the same level of access to state functionaries and that kind of thing, but we do have access to some, some figures like Bernie Sanders, for example, arguably would be somebody who we could potentially influence, and that kind of thing. Where actual policies could become enacted, where we can also connect them to actual social movements. We did an intervention during the Greece vote that happened last summer, where we brought in people who were in Greece to basically talk about what was happening and sort of like relate that information to to our members, and then hopefully that will help them in their research and you know, connect to social movements, connect to sort of insurgent politicians like Bernie Sanders, and that kind of thing. As far as like practice in like an art sense, not that, I mean, I know there's like social practice art and that kind of stuff, but in terms of an art sense, you know, one thing that we do is we have students do actual exhibitions. We have them do internships and that kind of thing as part of their practice. So even though they're working through us digitally, we also try to connect them with like some local institution where they actually are to engage in some type of practice like that. Because I run the social and political thought program, and like I said, I do have an interest in making us kind of at least partially sort of a think tank that can have practical results. You know, that is one of my goals, is for this to be translated into actual social movement activity of various kinds. And one of the biggest ones, because we have a lot of the kind of figures behind accelerationism and some of these ideas, which are, you know, the main policies that they're pushing for is universal basic income and that kind of thing. So, so trying to translate, you know, the sort of abstract theory into actual policies that could be enacted, such as a universal basic income, might be one of the things that that we would try to do that would be where it would not just be research, but it would also, you know, hopefully develop into some kind of material change.
Merv, you wanted to add something?
Yes. I'm trying to turn on my microphone. Yes.
While Merv is turning on her microphone, can I just ask if the person from Het Institute is Geert? Is the person from is the male person there from Het Institute? Or is your name Geert?
Dirk. D-I-R-K.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you. Sorry, just curious.
Yeah.
The sound is not working for some reason.
Merve, nothing.
No, doesn't work.
Please try to turn it off. Maybe.
We try techniques of communication without words. That's an experiment. Okay.
One thing you can do if the audio won't work is you can leave the Hangout briefly and come right back in, and that very often will fix it.
Yeah, that's how I fixed mine.
Okay.
We all need some training. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, now we just wait for Merv, and otherwise I would like, yeah, we wanted just to kind of launch a very last question, because we took a lot of your time already. So our curiosity was just more related to our very first question that we had in the brief description of these events. That was mainly based on the issue that you also just discussed about how to institutionalize and if to institutionalize and what this change. Merv, are with us? Okay. So, Merv, please.
So, I mean, this has been a 3-month program. So, in that sense, like how much we have actually managed is something to be discussed much more in detail. But one of the things that we are very happy about is actually to be able to held one of our discussions in one of the squares in Shenzhen, or in a small neighborhood in Shenzhen. So like the different kind of realities apply, at least in Shenzhen. I don't know if in different parts in China they are the same or not. But simply doing something on public space, outside, outdoors, is not as it works elsewhere in the other parts of the world. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm getting an error message, but I'll just continue to speak.
Could you? I was curious what you meant by how it's different from other parts of the world and that kind of stuff.
I mean, in Istanbul, in Rotterdam, in New York, in London, you can just go to a park or to somewhere in the city, to Central Park, to in front of Market Hall, to in front of the train station, and you can sit down all together, 10 people, and discuss something. This doesn't work like that in Shenzhen. Immediately the police officer comes and starts to ask you questions about why you are sitting all together. So even this is a challenge. We did manage to sit down on a street in Shenzhen, or sit down in a neighborhood park and hold a discussion. So we kind of see this as already an outcome, a positive outcome of the school program. Another one would be to basically question some of the assumptions, as I said in the beginning, that are made about the city. For instance, one of them is about the term urban village. Another one is the term special economic zone. So basically, at the end of the 3 months discussions on the city, through several workshops, we started to call Shenzhen as an agglomeration of territories of exception, because the city really works in that way. And this kind of now this is becoming a different kind of observation on the city that hasn't been discussed as such. So this is also an interesting outcome in that sense from the school program. In terms of very practical outputs, for instance, 2 artists that have run a workshop together with participants who were interested in the topic, they kind of brought together different observations over the city and made them into a mobile installation that is about a bath and a tea house of Chinese culture. So this would be a very simple output, which I mean, this installation, let's say mobile tea house, bath house, is going to stay in one of the neighborhoods in the city. So in that sense, there's also kind of a, let's say, continuation of the in terms of practical use as output of the temporary school program. Yeah, there are other things. I mean, there's going to be a reader book in terms of publication of the school program, but this is a that's much more of a simple, let's say, more in a way kind of communicating with the experience so far with people maybe who don't know much about Shenzhen or working in Shenzhen. The reader will come out also as an output of the school program. But in several ways in Shenzhen things work quite different, so we also have to develop different tools with how to deal with things. So in that sense, when we are starting with something, we don't necessarily know what kind of output will be coming or what kind of outcome will be the result, or will be the, let's say, the failure or the achievement. I don't know if it's a good response to Christina's question, but I mean, in that sense, it's really an experiment. Every workshop.
Yeah, sorry, if I may quickly respond. No, it's very to my question. I was just wondering also, do you think the quality of the final student work is different because of all of this process?
Yeah, I mean, quality in that sense, like it is very valuable because you know, some of them don't even relate design with construction or with like building, or some of them. So in that sense, the work might not look good or might not last long, or yeah, these kind of things. But the way it kind of transforms the way the participants think, in that sense, the quality is not really measurable for us so far. That's what I can for sure say. Yeah. But yeah, I guess the quality is something to be discussed more over the process, and rather than the outcome or the output.
Yes, and I don't call it in terms of the final kind of touches or finesse or anything like that. I mean the way of thinking,
exactly,
being able to consider differently the same brief, let's say.
Yes.
So
yes. Yes, I mean, I can talk to you hours about this. It's also, in a way, the whole process has been more therapeutical rather than, yeah, let's say cognitive. But it is the way we have seen in Shenzhen, people, participants of the workshops have been trying to establish relationships with us in a way as we are teachers. So they are there to learn from us. So they come with an assumption of hierarchy in their mind, and we rather try to break that hierarchy. We try to break and kind of put ourselves in the student, let's say, position, trying to make them feel like they should be teaching us about their own city. This is also, in a way, kind of empowering, or let's say, putting them more in a position of actor, or like more the knowledgeable one, and us in the more, let's say, learning or a passive one, let's say. But even this has been, in a way, kind of a learning process for us and for them at the same time, just to break this kind of hierarchy that exists, or also the the assumptions of verticality in their head, like how the structure works in an institution of teaching and learning and education. So breaking this has also been a big challenge for us through the process.
Well, hierarchies and the students, who is the students, who is the is a topic that we can further discuss. Maybe Laura and Dirk, do you want to add something about hierarchies in learning processes?
Well, the only hierarchy that is involved in our school proposal is between the coaches and the students, and the coaches are a kind of intermediary between the students who are researchers, because most of the people that we take on are people who have completed master's studies, who are trying to establish themselves or are already independent architects and beginning artists. So we are trying to mediate between their budding practices and an experienced field of experts to try to make them learn by doing something valuable but complex in an interdisciplinary field. So we try to profit as much as we can from the natural hierarchy that's there, but use it in a way that's as organic as possible, so that we don't suffer from the disadvantages of hierarchy. So it's as flexible situation as possible in our case. It's completely individuated.
Yeah, it's custom made actually. Every trajectory from every researcher is depending on the content of the research.
So, some need more guidance, and some need more critical debate, and some need more information or technical help, or just a buddy. It depends.
Jason, do you want to add something to the topic?
Yeah, I think that in terms of hierarchy of teachers and students, I think there's also the hierarchy of kind of like inside and outside of academia to an extent, and I think an important part for us is in terms of hierarchies. I mean, there are some parts of the teacher-student hierarchy that can't be completely eliminated, in my opinion, such as, for example, um, the amount of time that that a professor has. You know, that may seem to be a hierarchy, but I'm not sure it's actually a hierarchy. It's just different actual situations and that kind of thing. And I think that it can appear to be a hierarchy. So I think that there are kind of, Noam Chomsky talks about legitimate hierarchies and illegitimate hierarchies. So for example, a legitimate hierarchy would be a parent, and I don't want to put the professor in the place of the parent, but just for an example, a parent with a child walking by a busy road would want to exercise the authority to prevent the child from running into traffic, and that would be legitimate authority. I think there are other types of authority and that sort of thing that are perfectly legitimate. But I think in other respects that we definitely do try to break those down. But I think the more obvious one is the hierarchy of those who are inside the academy versus outside, and also the hierarchy of what counts as legitimate knowledge versus what does not count, because we're focusing on kind of emerging thinking, new theories, new ideas, new approaches, new practices. And so none of those things are going to be considered authoritative or legitimate, right off the bat. It's something that you have to make a case for, you have to demonstrate, and that kind of thing. So I think that those are some of the other areas of authority that we also engage and try to disrupt. And one more thing I wanted to say about Merv's example is the question of the relationship to state authority as well. I just find your example is just very interesting because it really does show a limit to something like what the New Center can do, at least what it can do easily. It would be difficult for us to do a lot of the things that we're talking about in a more authoritarian type of government situation. So some of these experiments that you talked about, just even trying to sit together in public, that kind of thing, I think is very interesting. And I would love it if we could internally maybe think about how we could do that sort of thing a bit more. I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah, I would love to be in touch with everyone further because we will be trying this more. Yeah, I don't know how far, but we will be trying these things further. We will be exploring these things further.
Christina, would you like to add something on this?
Or? Yes, maybe. I mean, for us, although part of our work is within the university and we do have some structure in order to get some work out there, at the same time, we're kind of a collaborative project, so it's a series of artists, different scientists coming together, forming their own projects within the framework of forensic architecture. But when it comes to conversation with students or conversation with communities that we would like to kind of address, the issue becomes very practical in the end, and it's not about hierarchy of what one says we should do and therefore we do it, but it is more about exchange of skills, exchange of knowledge. I mean, we would be offering what we can do, and we would kind of be hearing from either the students of what they can do and how we can work together and kind of join our skills, let's say, for a joint project, or the different communities about what they know or what they have seen the issues are, that also we can work together in order to understand how we can shift some relationships a little bit. So it is more, although I think hierarchy should not be confused with structure. And although we do need some structure because we need to be efficient and we need to be effective and impactful, hierarchy is something that we can challenge at any given time, and we can kind of assume that whoever has the skills can temporarily kind of assume a higher role, let's say, for task by task. And if this kind of shifts around, then it's quite okay at the end of the day.
Super, thank you. Thank you very much to everybody. Yeah, that was a lot of very interesting topics and questions. Do you have other questions within you, or no? I think we're discussed enough. Yeah. Anyhow, this is recorded also, so maybe we can say hello. Yeah. Bye. Oh, Merv, you're about telling something. A question.
Yes, I do want to ask a question, but I'm again having technical issues. I hope everyone is here. If everyone is hearing, we have been basically until now we have been deciding on the topics or the themes quite ad hoc and quite spontaneously. In a way, every participant could come up with a topic based on their quote-unquote critical observation, and kind of continue to work on that, and we get involved, or other people who find the theme or the topic interesting also join, or people from outside propose topics, and then the others who are interested in that topic join in and organize workshops. Basically, these are kind of two methodologies that we have been working with so far. I'm curious, in the case of the new center, and in the case of forensic architecture, forensic academy in future, I have understood more or less how HET Institute functions in that sense. How does the new center and forensic architecture develop, let's say, an agenda or a curriculum, again, quote unquote? How do you decide on what's going to be coming, what's going to come next, or how far in advance do you decide on the topics, and what is the kind of criteria that lead to those themes and topics?
Well, this might be an example of actually where the hierarchy does kind of break down a little bit. I mean, you know, we're an intentionally non-hierarchical institution. I should say that very clearly. I mean, we're run, but we are a collective. So you know, we're intentionally non-hierarchical. The form of like how the criteria for selection of what we do in the research groups, what we do in the seminars, what we do in the reading groups and that kind of stuff is all comes basically from social media discussion. So we have 12 research groups that are all on Facebook, and so there are discussions that happen in there. Just recently, somebody proposed a group reading of Isabel Stenger's "Living in Chaotic Times" or "Living in Catastrophic Times," and that was a member. It wasn't anybody from the kind of inside core of the New Center. They just wanted to do that. And then because I'm the one who works with the research groups, I, you know, went to that person and you know I set up all the basic requirements for that, the Facebook event. I set up the Google Hangout and all of that kind of stuff. And so I would say, you know, we're trying, and also because our focus is on the new, you know, the new center. So as a result of that, we're trying to pay attention to what our members and what our students are interested in, what they're reading. We ourselves are also, you know, trying to kind of keep our ear to the ground and see what is kind of developing recently in terms of critical thinking. And then the criteria then kind of come out of this sort of network-centric process of paying attention to these dialogues. And we're also constantly in dialogue with the other members of the New Center through the research groups, through dialogues exactly like this one, and then that's sort of where the idea for particular seminars comes out. I just had a student, one of our students had seen something I wrote about Paul Virilio, who is somebody I've interviewed and been researching his ideas on speed and power and technology for. I've been doing that for close to two decades, about a decade and a half. And so he asked me if we could do a seminar on the theories of Paul Virilio. So that's one of the next things that we're going to do, and that was proposed not by us, but that was proposed through this dialogical process that we have. So.
Okay.
As well here, I'm afraid I cannot offer you any sort of great strategy about how to select your next topic or anything like that. The way it has been done before, I mean, the whole forensic architecture project was kind of a it usually comes from the people. So the whole forensic architecture project started by our kind of principal investigator, Eyal Weizmann, who had developed his own interest in the field, and through the work in the center, decided to kind of apply for a grant to facilitate that sort of work. But then how it happened historically is that PhD students in the Center for Research Architecture would also find subjects that are interesting and develop their own projects under the umbrella of forensic architecture. So it really came from the people who had their own interests and decided they need to be doing something, and found collaborations within themselves. And now, more recently, now that this kind of first wave has passed and we're trying to operate more as an office, as a research group, it is not that we say, there's a certain criteria that we would go for when selecting a project, but it does have to do with first urgency of what is going on around us and how we can be in some way useful, and then very practically, if we can offer something, if there's an added value in our kind of research. So if there is spatial elements that we can explore, right? So part of that is, for example, with the Gaza work, it started while the war was developing in 2014. We realized there was so much social media, so much audiovisual material that came with that, a cloud of kind of information that could be evidence, but it was chaotic. So we just started looking at what we can tell based on the videos, the images, etc., and that developed into a year-long project and into a kind of a very concise human rights report. But it's something that it comes both ways. What is there to investigate, and can we add something to it? Can we do something about it? And then ever since, it's really whoever comes up to us with something we can work on, yeah, we would take it on. Sometimes they come, there's different people interested, and we can't do anything about it. Like, the case has nothing spatial that we can use our tools to kind of investigate. So we have to let these ones go. So it's, unfortunately, there's no recipe for it, or fortunately, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, both the methodologies of the new center and also forensic architecture. One thing that we will try to do from now on, and actually we have tried a little bit during the temporary school experiment, we kind of try to relate to the Chinese 100 schools of thought, like the school of tillers, or basically the schools are listed in the Hanshu, as they call it. One simpler versions are like, or the most obvious versions are like Taoism and Confucianism, or like school of diplomacy, or school of tillers is related with agriculture. Or like a school of minor talks. Like, we're trying to also kind of bring these back to present day in a way, try to also create some sort of cultural and historical connection, so we don't only sound as the outsiders who are trying to do something in the local context. So in that sense, we are interested in, let's say, trying cross-cultural pedagogies or cross-cultural methodologies that could, again, touch base and learn from each other. We would also be interested in that if anyone among the group or further would like to explore into.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's It's interesting to see how, yeah, these processes emerge quite differently, but also parallelly in institutions, in all the different institutions that anyhow have maybe quite different forms and goals, but anyhow there is a kind of a similar fluidity in the way that ideas raise and become implemented. So I think that's a very interesting thread that emerge through the whole discussions. And good. So thanks a lot. And Salvatore, you have any more comments? Okay. So thank you very much. That was really, really precious discussion. I hope we will implement them further, maybe personally or in future conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot. Goodbye. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.